All right, we are live. We are live from KAUAI here at KAUAI Landing. You can kind of get a view I went back to the room. The kids were at the pool. It's not super helpful. I've been coming here for like 10 years. Actually, I can get you the year for it. It was 20. Let me think. Cooper was 2. Rebecca was 6 months old. It's hard. 2011. So this is my 12th year coming to the same place. COVID screwed it up a little bit, so we had to go actually to somewhere, put me to 1 year. But other than COVID, we've been coming to the same exact hotel for the last 6 years, staying in the exact same room at the same place. I am a creature of habit. And the reason why I came here started, just had a tail and I want to do something different. And it kind of got to where Christmas, in my opinion, the holidays become very commercialized and less about what it's really meant to be, which is for families to connect and get closer. And so rather than us running around and having kind of the craziness of the holidays, I used to actually not look forward to Thanksgiving actually, or Christmas. I used to look forward to Christmas. And instead we've been coming here. So we get here about the week before Christmas. We stay till 3 or 4 days after. And we don't do a lot. We've got a few crazy tours that I'm going to share what we're doing here in a minute. But overall, we just hang out. We go to the same beach. We've got our hiking guide. Crazy story how we befriended the hiking guide out on a ziplining tour, who has become our guy, hikingkauai.com. I believe that is the place. Hiking Kauai. We're actually going out with him in a few days. We always do some crazy stuff, so I'll post some pictures online and share that. So in jumping into that, I kind of want to bring you my hat seems like it's crazy, but I guess while I'm all lined up, I got so many things going on. But I wanted to make sure that we maintain our schedule. It's Be Wealthy Brett, and we're always going to be here every single time at 4 o'clock Mountain. That's always weird because in Arizona we never change time. So anchoring something in means that my phone fell off my lovely plant there. If you saw my setup right now, I got my laptop on top of a toaster. It's really happening. But tomorrow, I am going to a really cool place. It's Forbidden Island, pronounced Ni'iau. I've done it before, and I'm going to see if I can share my screen here. Nope, I don't want to do that. I want to go to here. I'm just going to share this window. No, I'm not going to do that. So Ni'iau, check this out. It's the neighboring Forbidden Island, and kind of a crazy, crazy story on it. Elizabeth St. Clair purchased this in 1864 for $10,000. This island, you can see it on a really, really sunny day from Kauai, from the beach. So now they sold to the Robinson family, who owns it now. They actually have a helicopter company that goes back and forth. It's kind of crazy. They only allow so many people on it per year. And when they touch down over there, when you're coming in, you see all the animals and everything that's going on. The website looks absolutely insane, but they paid the equivalent. How great is an island? I know it was 1864, but I don't know how they're adjusting this for inflation, but $190,000. If you could buy an island today for $190,000, I think that's a very, very strong go. Let me show you this other tab here. So this website does not look like the place you would actually go. This is the actual website where I book my trip. I know it sounds crazy, but they've got a safari. You can go hunting over there. You would not believe, this looks like it's a dial-up site from 1985, but they have all the details on the island, how many people live there. It's pretty wild. There's still the natives still live there. I wanted to see how many people. I thought they said like around 100 people live on the island. I could get that for you and research it, but pretty crazy experience. You have a school over there. It does feel like you are on the last untouched place on the planet. So looking forward to that with the family coming up a couple days from now. So let me think. Where do I want to go? So traditions when I'm over here, I go to Christmas Day is Brennicke's. There's this Brennicke's Beach right behind us, Brennicke's Beach Broiler. Try to say that so many times fast. But we go there, the fish and chips. That is the absolute go-to move. We spend mostly about 14 straight days just hanging out on the beach. We've kind of, after been doing this 10 years, we'll go hike a few times, play pickleball this morning. But we crash the beach, and we've got a secret beach. I can't tell you about where it is. It's impossible. I can't let the word get out. But Poipu Beach, we go there every Christmas Day as well. Shipwreck Beach at the end. We might go cliff diving there at the end, but I absolutely love Kauai. There's two main parts where most people stay. You're going to stay on the North Shore or the South Shore, the South Shore being the Poipu area. It is one of my absolute favorite places. North Shore, I've never actually stayed. I've stayed in KAUAI, which is halfway. The North Shore, much rainier this time of year, but absolutely gorgeous. And I can't wait to go hang out, maybe do some surfing over in Honolulu. That is coming up. So when we get here, we normally eat out all the time, but here for some reason, the kids get really into cooking. And so we go to Costco, and I have one goal when I go to Costco, and that is to buy so much stuff that my wife says there's absolutely no way I can fit those items in the car. And when she says there's no way we can fit it in, that's when we stop buying. We absolutely nailed it. We bought a surfboard, gear, and inflation is real. The amount of money spent at Costco was absolutely insane and makes no cognitive sense. But every year we hit that. I want to talk a little about travel, what I'm looking forward to in 2024. I've got a number of trips, and I did want to talk about how I'm leveraging some of our business spend and my personal spend to increase my travel. I'll tell a story about how we traveled the world for a year. My family largely on points for airline miles and on points for hotels. And so it's kind of weird stuff. That is my kind of weird hobby that I do for some reason. I am obsessed with wringing out the last little bit of monetization from any single thing that I do. And monetizing my corporate spend has been important to me. It's kind of just a really, really weird, nerdy hobby around points and miles that I use to live wealthy with my family and live a better experience. Because some of these experiences are things I would never, ever pay for due to that they're astronomically expensive. And I'll walk through some examples. But I'll share that in a second. So my favorite places that are easy to get to, and I'm going to include Hawaii in that group, that is relatively easy to get to. My favorite place is Belize. It's not just because it's the thing that made me buy a place there. We bought a place on the island. I absolutely love Belize. One of the reasons is the place. The second reason is the people. The people of Belize are incredible, and you get your kind of your local friends. Like when we go there, the baker is a friend of ours, and so all these establishments that you go to all the time, it's just a different relationship. So absolutely love Belize. We've got a really cool trip to Rome. We have never been anywhere in the Rome, Italy, Spain, never done any of that. So we're going to hit that all on a cruise and check out a bunch of stuff. I've got a guys scuba diving trip. We're going to Roatan. So if you've got recommendations on Roatan, I'd love to hear that. It looks like the Kempton Grand Roatan's awesome, but we're going to take my best friend, Matt, Cooper, Jagger, myself, a dude's week-long diving trip. Super excited about that. Cabo, Punamita. I will share. I got to play golf. One of my favorite rounds ever that I got to play. I just got to play here recently with my kids and Matt. Hold on, let me grab. There. I get to play golf here. It's the tail of the whale. The hole is actually out in the water, but you have to time the tide so that you can play golf, that you can actually walk over there. There's a better view. You tee off right there, and you can see right there you wouldn't be able to walk it. But later, as the tide changes, you can actually drive your golf cart all the way across. One of my favorite rounds ever with my dad was playing out there and getting to see all driving out there. We actually didn't drive. We walked across, and our shoes got wet. And my dad said, "This is the stupidest thing we've ever done." And we're going to have to respectfully agree to disagree that was awesome. So that's my spot. I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about how to maximize your travel experiences. So much I believe about wealth is more than money, and it's about maximizing the experiences. You can change the quality, the happiness, the enjoyment of some experience. It doesn't take a lot of money. Sometimes it's just forethought or thinking differently about it. And so I want to talk about, there's four main, if you're going to play this points game, this is where it gets super nerdy. So if you're a points nerd, you can comment on here. If you're not, you might become a nerd for it. And there's a really simple way to think about it. And then I'll take it to the ultimate nerd level that I play at on this game. But if you want to think about points and miles, and just think about every dollar you spend, you go out and you buy a meal for $100, and depending on what credit card you pay with determines the amount of points or currency you're going to get. And so there's two things to think about. What's the value of the currency itself? Points on Southwest are different than points on American Airlines or points on United, and they have different values. There's also four main currencies. You've got Chase, Citi, Capital One, and American Express. So 4 kind of main currencies. Some of those can be transferred directly to the airlines or hotel partners, and some of those you can use directly to rebate, or you could book directly in travel and pay with your points on their site. So there's a variety of ways you can use them. And so depending on where you want to go, or you want to travel, or what airline is close to you at the airport, may determine what currency makes the most sense and which currencies you want to accumulate lots of those points so you can transfer those out. So as an example, our Rome trip we needed a lot of Capital One points because it transferred, I think it was to Turkish Airways. And so we were able to do that through the Capital One portal. And so by doing so, made those lay flat seats free, and we had more than enough points to cover that trip. Otherwise, it'd have been probably $2,500, $3,000 per ticket or more. Instead, it was all free. So there's 4 main currencies: Amex, Chase, Citi, Capital One. So now when you're going back to that meal at the restaurant, you're paying for $100. Most people just use their standard card, or they think whatever airline or whatever, they've got one program, they swipe that card and they get 100 points. But on that same, if you were intentional, you could have easily gotten 400, 4-to-1, or 500, 5-to-1, depending on the card that you used. Right. And so again, it depends on what currency you want to build up. And ideally, you're probably building up equal amounts of the currencies so you could use them as you go out and want to book travel. Next, you've got miles, and you got hotel points that kind of work the same way. Instead of with the currencies, they're actually with Marriott or Hyatt or American Airlines. Some of those are harder to get, but it depends on the hub you want. Like American Airlines are one of the hardest points to get unless you're getting them from actually travel or using one of their credit cards, but they don't have a great multiplier on like Meals, Travel, anything other than booking on American. So I have the card for the convenience to board sooner or to access the lounges, but I don't have the card to actually maximize my points on American. I'll book those through usually Amex or Amex or Chase, and I'll just use the reimbursement there. I do have someone that helps me manage all this. There's a company out there called Travel Wealth. They'll actually look at your corporate spend and go in there and tell you which cards might make the most sense based on your spend. Or the easy way, if you want to play none of these games, make sure you're getting at least 1.5% to 2%. That's pretty default standard these days. You got Capital One's got a number of cards. It'll give 2x for every dollar spent. And there's a new one, I'll show you here, the new one. Let me stop. The new one that just came out from Citi is the 2x on everything Inc. Business Premier. And then 2.5% everywhere over 5,000. If you just want one card, you're going to use everywhere. You're not going to try to get 4 and 5 on meals. This would be the one I would go to because you can transfer those to Southwest. You can transfer to Hyatt. It's one of the best redemptions. So a lot of the places on Hyatt, I went and stayed in the Maldives 2 nights over there for a week. I had to get 2 separate rooms because they're really weird. We couldn't have, even though we have little kids at the time. And I think the rooms ran like $2,500 a night because it was Christmas in the Maldives. And it was like 35 or 40,000 points per night. And so what would have been a week that I would have no way spent $7,000 a night for these rooms for a week, so 50 grand. Instead, it was a number of points that I already had, right? So you're able to use those for a redemption, have an experience, Christmas and New Year's in the Maldives, that I would likely not have wanted to pay the money for. Same way with the flight out there. We flew Emirates, and those tickets were first class in Emirates. It's the best experience I've ever had. Some of the best food in an airplane is even crazier. But those tickets ran about $7,000 or $8,000 per ticket. We've got 5 people going, myself, my wife, our 3 kids. So you're really talking, $40,000 or in points. So again, I got to have an experience that I would never have had. To have 3 Woodford Reserves in the air, kind of crazy. Experience I've never had. I never spent that money, and yet I got to experience my family, which is really kind of ties back to the mission I talk so much about here. And the reason I'm actually doing this and getting more vocal, like by launching our podcast and all the things that are coming, I want to share with people that, number 1, wealth's more than money. Number 2, anyone can have wealth. You got to figure out a plan. And a lot of our episodes and a lot of the training we're going to have here is going to be how do you forecast out and pick that destination where you want to be at some point in the future? And then how do you work backwards today and figure out what wealth looks like? So number 1, we got to define that lifestyle. And then how can you start living wealthy now, right? Wealth, again, being more than money. There are experiences you can have that don't cost a lot. They're going to take a plan, and you're going to have to commit to it. But it doesn't mean an example, going with this goofy points to tie it into a really goofy example. Just by using what you're already spending probably in your personal life and in your business, you could get those, you could change that spend a little bit. And now you could have a crazy experience with those you care about and love that wouldn't cost you any extra money just by thinking a little differently and checking out a few sites. So if you want to go a ton deeper into the points game here, I will show you one last place. There's a number of sites like this, but I would start with the points guy. They share a ton of information and really kind of basic level, but you can go what credit cards they recommend the best of 2024. There'll usually be a reason. They're likely getting paid on all this. So you can read the news, points and miles, where to get started. They'll kind of walk you through. This is probably the place to start, the beginner's guide. I'm sure I've read everything out there because, I'm a super nerd here. But this will do a great job of giving you the overview, why you want an overwater bungalow. I just say overview, overwater bungalow altogether. It just got so jacked out of my mind. Yeah, this will walk you through absolutely every part so you understand how to play that game. So if we go through this, I'll take questions in a sec. If you want to throw questions in the chat, we'll grab those. I've got Cole working Instagram Live. He'll put those in the chat on YouTube so we can grab it there. All right. So now let's talk about ways that, again, we talked about changing the credit cards. Now let's talk about actually portals and how these Chrome extensions you can add to your browser to tell you when you might be missing an opportunity. One of the ones I want to show is going to be a site called Rakuten, and I thought I had it all pulled up, and it looks like I do not. So give me one sec here. Oh, awesome. Doing stuff in real time is always the easiest. All right, got it. So Rakuten, when you sign up, you can opt for getting paid in Amex points instead of cashback. But in a lot of stores, if you add their extension, when you go to one of the stores, you actually get cashback. It'll just pop up. And so it might have like Expedia, if you were buying a hotel right now, or you're buying something through Apple. Again, you're going direct to Apple, making a purchase. We all do it. If you click through Rakuten on the way there, which is sitting on the side, it would tell you, click here. Your purchase is all the same. And now they're going to add 2%, and they're going to give it to you in membership rewards points or in cash back. There's another great site out there called, I think it's Cashback Monitor. And same kind of idea. It just tells you could type in any store you want and look at where's the best place to go to get cash back. Some of these are going to be things that are multi-level or whatever here. But like Nike, if you're going to go to Nike today, there's a way you can get 12% cash back on a purchase you're already making. And so here was the way you get it. You get Rakuten's 10, Active Junkie. And so some of these, Mr. Rebate, Top Cash Back, you can see where you can go. It could tell you if you went through a different site, like if I wanted American Advantage miles, by using that, so I could get 10% here, or I could get 2 miles per every dollar spent in addition to whatever I'm going to get on my credit card. So in a lot of these places, you'll see you get your bonus on your credit card. You might have some other bonus like an Amex inside of there, like an offer. And then you might get additional miles by using through either one of the Chrome extensions, whether that's United or American, by using their portal. When you check out, you get additional points there. I know it sounds super weird. Until I got to go on a trip, and my trip to the Maldives would probably been about $75,000 for air and hotel. Again, something I would not have done. And it was absolutely an experience I'm so grateful that I got to have, and I did it through points and miles. All right, let me see. I'm going to take some questions here on the side. Brad Spinkas, how many weeks per year do I take off? I start my year at 12-ish weeks. The reason I give ish, I'm going to take 2 weeks off at Christmas, a week at Thanksgiving, a week at Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July. I start around all of the major holidays. Like Christmas, I leave, it's a little more than 2 weeks. But I start off kind of blocking off 12 weeks of when I'm going to be gone away. I spend a lot of time in my cabin. So 7 weeks of that, it's right in the middle of the summer. As soon as my kids get out of school, we just head up there and I do all my work, my same pretty much work schedule, just from up there as opposed to in my office. So my business and actual life started changing dramatically when I took more time off. It was one of those things that until I booked a calendar or put on my calendar, and not only I had to book it and pay for it in advance where there was no way, like a non-cancellation, was when I actually committed to going. Prior to that, I would get close to it. I figured the work was too valuable. I couldn't be away. And so I would cancel the trip. And so my trick was just going out far into the future. My wife will tell you I'm the ultimate planner. I need a plan for everything. And I try to get it as far in the future I can. Usually we're already done with 2024's calendar. That's all booked, bought, and paid for, and we know where we're going. Now, we might sprinkle in a few additional trips, but we start off with those 12 weeks. Those are all booked, locked in, and go. So, Brad, I would tell you to start traveling more. It doesn't have to be crazy lengths of time. You could take the long weekend for President's Day or whatever holiday you can grab onto, and go out camping and go check something out. Go on a road trip. But my success came from getting the time to think, getting time to reflect on what mattered and why I want to be doing the things I was doing. And travel for me has been a huge part of my success and has helped immensely. So, Rob, on our Hawaii trip, we've had the family come before. Last few years, it's just been the five of us, the people that directly in my household. So that's who's there this year. Points nerd. Oh, we got another points nerd. Oh, my guy Will. Will, we got to. I know you're coming to our mastermind, so when you're there, we can have an offline conversation. There's a topic I'm very passionate about, so we'll get in there and we'll say what's your best card. We will definitely have that conversation. So there are cashback cards that do that. I never take the cashback, and the reason is for the redemption, right? And some of the things I'm doing at points and miles, I would get a 2% cashback, let's say on a Capital One card. And I can still use that. They're there. I could use it to pay a statement balance, and I would get the equivalent of 2%. I don't, because I'm able to go get 3%, 4%, and 5% by transferring those or booking a different type of trip. So 2% getting or less than that cashback doesn't make sense. I love it using it where I feel like I get 4 or 5 points instead of 2, and then have an epic experience that I wouldn't have otherwise thought about spending the money on, because I am relatively cheap when it comes to that kind of stuff. Mark Hewitt, what's up, man? How are you? Good seeing you on here. Maldives. I stayed 2 places. I did the St. Regis, and then we did the Park Hyatt. It's like Hadu. The name is really, really weird on the islands over there. It's like Hadudu, something like that. But the St. Regis and the Park Hyatt was where we stayed in the Maldives, and it was awesome. I will tell you, it's not as good as Bora Bora, and Bora Bora is way easier to get to. And if you go to Bora Bora, I highly recommend the St. Regis Bora Bora. It is where Couples Retreat was filmed. That movie plays 24 hours a day. They loop it constantly. It's awesome in a lot of different ways. Cara Scott's gotten over $3,000 back from Rakuten the last 4 years. Yeah, Rakuten's a cool tool. If you go to Top Cashback Monitor or Cashback Monitor, you can also check that out there. But love Rakuten. I always get the transfer in membership rewards instead of cashback, but you can also take it as a check. Either way, again, the reason I'm taking the points is I can leverage those for a higher return, but really can't go wrong at all. Cameron Burnside, what's up, dude? Do I plan the trips ourselves? So Travel Wealth, the company I talked about, let me share these guys. This is my buddy JJ does own it. I have no dollars connected to them in either way, other than I think he's one of the coolest people on the planet, and he does handle it all. So Cameron, this is who I use. He kind of gave me the strategy. It was funny how I met him. Was actually a really, really good friend of mine. I said, Brett, I know you're kind of a nerd in points and miles. You've got to reach out to this guy, JJ. And I jumped on the phone. I said, hey, dude, I am a black belt in the points game. I've got it. I will be the most knowledgeable person you've ever talked to. He and I exchanged for 10 minutes. We're sparring a little. And he's like, Brett, you're right. You are the most knowledgeable person I've ever talked to. And you have not scratched the surface. And so he was 100% right. So he manages the trip. He'll go do all the conversions. He'll book it. Depending on, I might say, hey, I've already know the location I want to go to. Is there a better way we can do it? But he'll handle 100% of the flights, sometimes the room, unless it's something super simple and domestic. And then I'll likely just handle it because, again, I'm a nerd. But they would do all of it. So it acts like a travel agent plus kind of points, wealth concierge person. He also travels and does this for a living. And so he can just recommend insanely epic experiences. And just a great, great dude. JJ taught at Travel Wealth. You can check him out. All right. I'm firing through the questions. Cole is not here. Cole, back at the home base at HQ. The live stream brought to you from Poipu, Hawaii. If you'd have told me a year ago I would be doing this, I would have called you an absolute liar. I cannot believe it. Who is your who when you're gone? And are they competent a way to grow your team and investments? Jalen Archer, dude, what an incredible question. Thank you. Yeah, so when I'm gone, we operate 7 to 8 different businesses in the real estate space. So each one of those that is operational in nature, like I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. But any one of those businesses that's operating something, whether it's our team, whether that's our investment company, there's a leader that's in charge of that business. It's name on the org chart. It's not Brett. So there's someone that either owns real equity in that business, or there is someone who has a profits interest. They're motivated by the bottom line, what they can generate in terms of profits for that company. So when I am not away, all the businesses are still working. I don't have a day-to-day role. I haven't in, I don't know, probably 5 to 7 years. I haven't had a seat in the org chart to where I'm doing the doing. But I'm working directly with my partners and our shareholders to make sure the business is in line. We're hitting the budgets we talked about. I'll still have calls, but I'm not involved in a day-to-day. So they're all compensated that way. It has been a long way and a long time coming, and how to set it up. And we'll probably cover that in a future episode or a future live stream episode. See, KAUAI already dropped the podcast, plugging in huge right there. Be Wealthy with Brett Tanner coming out very, very soon, early 2024. See, Cole, that's committing, but not committing. So yes, all of our companies continue to move forward there, and getting someone, we'll probably cover compensation is where I was going with that. We'll cover compensation, the different ways to pay people, from salary to bonus to when people should be independent contractors, not independent contractors, executive compensation around, is it profits interest? Is it one-time bonus? There's lots of different ways. It could be equity. It could be earn-in. You can vest people in over time based on performance. There's lots of different ways you can set up structures. And so we'll get into all of that as we go live and come out more with just free training that we're doing to help entrepreneurs and real estate people go out and live a better life. So yes, they're all going well on the way. All that continues to happen. And there is a better way to build a company than with you in it. If you hire people that are actually better than you, I could tell you that the people that have been with me, all of our leaders have been either close to 10 years and some quite a bit over. Sabrina just hit 15 years. I've hired people that are much better than me at what they do. They're incredible. And so it makes more sense for them to do it because they're actually better than what I can do. Travel Wealth, they do charge a fee. I don't even know what it is. I've been using them for a long period of time. So I pay so much per month and they just handle everything. Yeah, Park Hyatt. Anytime you stay at a Park Hyatt on points, we just came back from New York. Took the team. That Park Hyatt Central Park is incredible. If you ever go there, awesome hotel. Again, stayed there. I think like when we were there, it'd be like $1,000 a night. It was like 35,000 points, which is an insane redemption there. For sale by Forzy, best name ever. Best tips to build miles that you haven't thought of. Usually it's going to be purchases or the Chrome extensions that are other, like their shopping portal, if that's American or United, and the Southwest may have one. So that's it. Transfer, when you sign up for credit cards, and in no way am I endorsing credit card debt. I think it's terrible. You should never pay that interest. But if you're disciplined using it as a tool to have experiences you wouldn't otherwise have, makes a ton of sense to me. So sign-up bonuses are big on cards. Those will be the big ones. If you're specifically looking for miles, look at what other cards transfer in there. And then you could look at, like, if, for example, if you need more American Express miles, you would go to Rakuten and probably backfill that way. Could be one of the strategies there. Again, super nerdy, super weird technical answer, but hope that helps. All right, a question from, we've got questions just popping off on Instagram. And so Cole's putting those in our YouTube live here. When hiring someone, are you looking for emerging talent or proven talent? Does it depend on the role? So it's a really great question. It's also timing in that business. So where is that business in its season? I've done well with both. I luckily started out broke with no money and lots of time. And so as I hired our first round of staff, I didn't have the funds to pay over what the market would bear. I had to find emerging talent that I believe could be great, invest in them, help them doing all the things to become better so they would become proven talent. Today, in some of our companies that are further along, I would rather skip that part, right? Growing talent, managing it, supporting people, and helping them grow can take years to develop in the person you might need right now. Today, if we have that same problem, I prefer for proven talent. I want someone who's already won in the role. They know exactly how to achieve and what they're doing. Today represents what they'd be doing for you, right? They already have success doing the thing you want somewhere else. You can grab them, plug them into your business. It allows you to move faster because that person can start today, as opposed to you're getting a portion of their results and then the big payouts 3 years from now. And so when it comes to talent, I would always say this, that when you're interviewing folks, the difference between the right person and the wrong person, someone who's just got exponential talent, they can grow with the organization, they can start with you, and 10 years from now, they've grown at the same pace as the organization. That versus an average person, I think you pay 20 to 30% more when you're offering a total annual compensation package. So I think the A player costs 20 to 30% more, but I believe they get a 5x result. So you get a 500% return for a 30% investment. Now, what makes that investment great? It relies on you as a leader, right? Who are you as a leader? Are you empowering them? Are you bringing them to things that if you're going to a training, are you bringing them and getting them involved? Are you interested in their personal life? Does your company have a mission that where the people's lives are enhanced by joining your organization and pouring into it? So I find that there's a lot more bad leaders than there are bad employees. And as someone who's been a really terrible leader and who's a leader on that journey, always looking to get better, I could tell you that when it comes to people, talent does matter. You got to get what you can afford. But even if I'm looking for emerging talent, I'm looking for the person that I'm never hiring for the role they're in. If we're looking for a receptionist, we're never going to hire for that role. They're going to do reception work on their way to something else. Like, we want people that are aspiring to do more and achieve more in their lives. We expect a lot as an organization. I have heard it said in our organization that we're one of the most demanding, hardest places you will work, and it will be the most rewarding place you'll ever work. So I never claim to be the easiest, but we are 1,000% committed to getting the result. So when it comes to people, I would always say the best one matters. The next thing, once you can't afford it, invest in your people. I do like, and I proudly say this in my businesses, we try to overpay where we can. We want to overpay in that I never want to lose someone to a competitor who comes in there and is trying to get my people at a lower price or an equal price. I want to already be overpaying and have the goodwill sitting in my favor. And then I want to create the big enough opportunity that no one needs to leave. They can achieve their goals inside of our world. So great question there from the Instagram. And you know what's funny? When it comes to books on leadership, overwhelmingly, I find they're complete garbage. They're terrible. I've read all of them because I wanted to do this training for one of our masterminds. And I read all the leadership books, and the book that I always thought that I wanted to write, turns out it does exist. It's not talked about a lot. It is Leading at a Higher Level by Ken Blanchard. Nothing wrong with John Maxwell's 21 Laws of Leadership. I think they're great. I agree with them, but it's not really a how-to book on how to implement those laws of leadership in your life. Where leading at a higher level, Michael Hyatt talks about, depending on the talent of the person you're hiring, each level that they're at, and he gives 4 quadrants, needs a different type of leadership, whether you're support or whether you're delegating. And he has a better word for delegating, but either support or coaching. And it changes based on their talent and how they're achieving in their role. And anytime you have a problem or you need a leadership tactic, you go back a level and then focus on those items to get them again where they're more self-sustaining. At the beginning, you're directing people a lot. Hey, go do this. Will you handle this? I want you to do this, this, and this. You're giving very specific directives, where later you're more saying, what would it look like? Or what do you need to achieve that outcome? Do you have a plan for that? You're having a different type of leadership conversation. So there's a number of podcasts out there. I'm trying to think of one specifically on leadership. I'm sure John Maxwell's got something. But I would say, so number one, I would go to Leading at a Higher Level. Number two, leadership is all about having brutally hard conversations. And I think the part that's missing so often in leadership is the brutally hard part. It's really easy to have conversations, but are they meaningful? Are they impactful? Do they change behavior in a way that benefits the business? And it's sometimes hard because as the owner of the business, you're put in a situation where you've got to step in, and it can be emotional, or it can be, people can even get defensive as you're having to have that hard conversation. But I heard I was in a really, really high-end mastermind recently, and someone said to lead at the very highest level, to play the highest level of leadership, you have to have the very hardest conversations. It's almost the higher level you go as a leader, are you able to have extremely difficult and hard and challenging conversations, and making sure that we're talking through issues, not going home with them and kind of resenting what wasn't said. And one of the things we practice in all of our companies is we are radically transparent. We are transparent in all things. All of our staff, especially our leadership, knows exactly how much all the companies make. They know where all the money's spent. They know how I'm compensated to do it. They know everything about it. And I totally believe in just open and transparency. I think too many people are hiding, and I think people either think you're making half of what you're making or you're making 55 times more than what you're making. And instead, why not just live in total transparency? And first of all, I think my employees, I hope they look at it and say he's making a lot of money because he's been at this for a long period of time and he's committed at a different level and he risked everything. Or I think they all see that part of it, and you paying that price and you creating that opportunity for them. So I think that when it comes to leader, there's just not enough raw, authentic leaders out there. And as someone who's looking to get better every day, I truly respect and admire raw, transparent leadership these days. Now, definitely more than ever. How did I develop the habit of reading consistently? You start a lot of books, you don't finish many. I'll read more on this trip than any other trip because I have more beach and kind of downtime. Side note, I'm reading this book, and I bet it sold. I hope she's actually killing it. I want to believe that's true. I bet it sold not a lot of copies. It is 100 Ways to Change Your Life by Liz Moody. She was on a podcast, Cole, believe it or not. She was on a podcast with a guy that I really like. I really like his podcast. All the Hacks, by the way. I don't know that dude, but he seems like a good dude. But All the Hacks, I love their podcast. Kind of plays the reward point mile game, kind of a little bit what's the newest tool widget out there. So I geek out on it. But anyway, he had her on the podcast. I loved her interview, bought her book. I absolutely loved her book. Incredible, incredible book. I want to share a couple of my thoughts from the book. I got to get my specific notes. She talks about a concept in here, never be the one to say no to yourself. So as you're thinking about you're going out being successful, like, oh, I want to start a podcast, Cole. That's something I said I wanted to do. But I'm never even saying I'm going to start a podcast. Or I would love to write a book, but I got to go see the publisher and they'd probably say no. Or I'd love to go try a different role in my company, but I know my boss wouldn't probably say yes. So in other words, it's that self-talk rather than just asking your boss and going for it and then dealing with what happens then. So it's never be the one to say no to yourself. I absolutely love that. The next thing you said, show me what you value. Tell me what you care about, what you value in life. And all her 100 Ways to Improve Your Life were from her podcast. So she brings people on there, takes the science around that, and then shared their best practice. So one of the people she interviewed on her podcast talked about, tell me what you value. Show me your values. What are the things you care about in life? Now pull up your calendar and let's just see if your calendar matches your values. I've heard that said a lot of times, and this was a time where it hit me more than other ways. But does your calendar match your values? I can tell you there's been times where I'm out of balance, right? I'm counterbalanced to at work and not enough at home. And if you say, what do I value? Well, I value my family. But if I look at my calendar, it's not reflected. That time's not being reflected today. And so I know I've got to go counterbalance. I'll go the other way and I'll spend all the time then. And so it's just one of those, it is one of those things I really respect. Let me see what else in the book. Sorry, does your schedule match your values? I was trying to do too much at the same time. You know, when you're live on Instagram, you just got thousands of people watching you. It's very tricky. Talked about like really easy things, but the biggest thing in the book was do these N of 1 experiments. N of 1. See, there's all these ways to improve your life. Like someone says, start taking this new supplement, start taking fish oil tablets because it'll lower your cholesterol or whatever. And he talks about, all right, why don't you get a test and make sure you know how to measure it, then over 90 days and see, hey, I'm going to take this supplement and I expect this to go down by 20%. What happens? So what do we do as people, or what do I want to do? I read this book. I had 75 things I want to try immediately, of which overwhelming those habits won't stick because I'm just making an emotional response to a great book. Instead, I should do things one at a time, the things that matter most, prioritize those, pick the item I should test, and then see, does it work, right? You're seeing, because just because it worked for someone else doesn't mean it'll work for you, but getting that data. I can tell you one of the things I check is I track how my sleep is. And I bought this Sleep 8. I'm the biggest proponent of Sleep 8, or it's 8 Sleep. This mattress gets super cold because I sleep like 1,000,000,000 degrees. My wife sleeps really, really cold. I always want to turn the air down to where it's 55 in our bedroom and freeze her out. And she's in a ski parka and then like lighting the blanket on fire to keep warm. Just not a super great fit. And so this 8 Sleep allows her to be 1,000 degrees, me to be -30. And it learns how you sleep every single night and tests, like going, as you get into deep sleep, it'll go a little colder, a little warmer, and it tests different temperatures to see how you sleep. And it regulates, and you get a score based on routine and how well you slept and how many increments you got of each different, from REM sleep to deep sleep. But it has absolutely changed the game for me. I do not have it here in Kauai. I haven't slept that great. Nothing wrong with the KAUAI landing, but the mattress sucks. And so these N-of-1 experiments is something I'm looking forward to definitely in 2024. So Brad, that was a little rant there. I went off, but if I get into a bad book, let's say I'm reading something and it's garbage, I immediately do not feel the need to finish it. For me, probably out of every 20 books, 3 are going to be something I'm going to get 30 pages in, and this either isn't what I thought, it's poorly done, or I'll skip ahead and see if there's some value there. I did take a speed reading course. It's one of the best things I ever did. If you do not read at a very, very fast pace with high comprehension, I think it's one of those like lost arts. I believe it's Jim Quick. Cole may have the course because I challenge Cole because when he worked directly with me, every week I'm giving him a book. I'm like, hey, can you read this? Can you have it done by next week? Because if I give a book, I have accountability around it. And pretty quickly, he's like, dude, I don't know how quickly you think I can read all these books. And I said, oh, can you just not read fast, or what's the problem? And I said, have you ever taken a speed reading course to get better? Because that seemed like a very logical thing for me to say. And he said, no. And he took the course, and he'll put it in the chat there. And I said, hey, if you do this, I want to see the results, and I'll reimburse you for it. So he did it, and his speed went up some crazy amount and they measure it in how many words per minute you can read before you start and what your comprehension is versus after, how many words per minute can you read. I think it was like 5 or 6x that he ended up doing it. And so I read a ton of books. I probably read through all the way through end to end about 40, 50 books a year, which is a lot. I read a little differently than most in that I'm usually all around a particular subject matter. So most recently, the life insurance space. I wanted to know everything there was to know about the whole life insurance space. And then I want to know everything about the competitors, the index universal life. And so I bought every single book that exists in whole life. There's like 30 or 40 of them. And you start reading them. And I read through all of the books. And so pretty quickly, you've got what all the people that are for it say, what the people that are against it say. And about 7, 8 books in, you've got a working model of how you believe that business works. Then you go read like the other products, the competitors, the index universal life, and why do people love that? And again, you're just building a working model to understand, and I want to know everything there was about it because I leverage my whole life policy, and I was getting ready to buy another one, and I've advised other people to buy them, and I wanted to understand it at the black belt expert level. And so that was my purpose most recently. So I go deep into a space and just kind of nerd out and learn everything about it. About 5, 6 years ago, I went that route in long-term debt. So seller financed real estate notes. You could take residential property, go out and sell that and become the bank in that transaction. Turn it from a rental. We're doing this right now in a lot of our Huntsville portfolio. We're selling properties and we're carrying back the paper. So it was a rental property. I bought it for a lot of the ones there. I bought for $50,000. Now they're worth $150,000. We're selling those and we're going to do something else with the capital. And I'll sell it instead of selling it for $150,000. I'd love to take 30% down. So $45,000 down and I'll finance that between 8.9 and 9.9% fixed for 30 years. And so usually what will happen is a rental that I was renting it for around $1,100 a month, I'll now get the same $1,100, but there's no payment subtracted out of it. I don't have taxes, insurance, repairs. So it's the same gross rent, but I don't have the 30% expense load or 35% expenses that come with all single family rentals. Instead of whatever my payment is, I get that every single month. And so I've done hundreds of those in our portfolio. And it's just one of those really passive ways to get paid. So I wanted to learn that space. I looked at the 2 veterans who have been at it forever. My friend Eddie Speed, my friend Mitch Stephen, went out and spent days with both of them and learned everything I could possibly learn, right? I started with what did not work well, what worked well. And so I wanted to know the failures, the successes, more from the failures, and built this whole working model of how we could create more seller finance debt in our investment company, which we have done many, many times over. It's one of the best things I have, one of my best investments is debt. So long-winded answer. So I'm giving you ways, Brad, to think differently about reading. Is it topical? Is there something driving you? Like the book you're reading should get you fired up, excited to learn, or you want to, really grab a specific topic, but it should be motivational as you're reading it. You should want to read it. So it shouldn't feel like it's work if you have to do it that way. Favorite podcast currently, All the Hacks. I love All the Hacks. I love Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow with Kevin Bupp, Bupp. I love Wealthability, Tom Wheelwright, Wealthability. My guy, All the Hacks podcast. I love that one. All the Hacks. Ed Milet's podcast is awesome. What else have I been listening to recently? I'll try to think of a few more as I go through it, but I have been deep in the podcast game recently. Cameron, switching things up. Mortgage hacking to gain travel. Is there a way to make a mortgage payment to gain points? Dude, really great question. On the rental side, there is. Built kind of went down that road. So if you're paying rent, you can use the Built credit card and you could pay your rent on there. And so that gets you the Built points. I don't have those, but that's one option. There was a place, it was called, I think, Plastique, like PLSTA, but however you get there, if you do Plastique, pay your mortgage, there's a way, but you're essentially paying the fee. So I never will pay, I'm not going to pay a 3% processing fee to try to get 3% in points. I wouldn't go that route. There is no way on the mortgage side. So you want to think about any expenses you have that you might be able to pay via credit card that you're maybe paying some other way, like your phone instead of ACH. You can pay your phone via credit card. I wouldn't pay, again, a fee for it, but how could you recapture? It might even make sense for you to pay your IRS tax on a credit card. They do charge a fee for it. But if you're close to hitting like the next status or you just hit a certain spend limit, that's one way you can do it. You do pay a fee, and I hate that. So only use that if you have to get a certain win there. But just look at, as long as you got every area of your life, and then if it's dining, make sure you're getting the right multiplier. And if you put in the Chrome extensions, usually the things you're getting, you can get a different rate. Here's a really weird example I'll give you. There's a Chase, I think it's the Inc. Business Cash credit card that gets 5x points at Office. And so you could go to your Office store, you could buy $2,000 worth of Amazon gift cards, and you're going to get 5x points on that, right? So you're going to get 1,000 points or 10,000 points. If you bought 2,000 gift cards, 10,000 points on, and you could get those in Inc., which would be, or in Chase, which are some of the best points to get because they have so many different transfer options. So that's a way where all your Amazon spend now, you could handle it that way. Do I use a GPS? I'll tell you, Luke, we do. That is the only tool, the 135 or the goal priority strategy method. We use that. We have a different kind of 411 that we built. It's really flash reports is the way we do it in our world. Basically, if you think you take the 135 business plan and all of every item on there, the 3 priorities and the 5 strategies, all of those are represented by a number. We don't want anything that's like, hey, sell more widgets or get more leads. How many leads by when? So then there'll be a weekly number that we need to hit from that plan that makes sure we hit our annual plan, our annual profit number. All of our 135s or our GPSs are going to be, the one goal must be profit. If you're running a business for us, there is a profit number driven there. For me, I do a 135 where the one is how much passive income additional will I create in the next 12 months. So I do that plan now. All of those important numbers there are dropped into a flash report. It's usually around 15 or 20 numbers that drive that entire plan. At that point, you could actually throw away your business plan. And if you just make sure the numbers were what they needed to be to hit your end destination at the end of the year, you will always know if you are on or off track. So I live and die by that 135 and the flash report. That's what all of my leaders every single week send me an update. Hey, here's my flash report. Here are the good things about it. Here are the bad things. Here are the changes I've made. And then when we have our one-on-one to meet on how's the kind of state of the business every single week, we're just looking at, are those numbers on or off track? And if they're off track, are they taking the necessary actions to get them on track so we hit our goals? So we've been using that same model forever, Luke, and we'll probably film a video or a training on specifically that, like how we use the 135 and why I think or the GPS and why it's such a great tool that I think it's not done the right way. It's really the whole point of it is to set up your thinking, and all of that thinking should be able to be measured and managed. And so you've got to get the key numbers out of there and really know if you're on or off track. Cole's shouting podcast. He will not quit saying podcast. He came to our State of the Company meeting in a suit with that video we threw on Facebook where they made it just to bully me in with social pressure to convince me I need to do a podcast. Bullying in a great way. I don't mean that in the wrong way. So I am all in. Podcast creator. I tell Taylor, my wife, constantly, I'm a creator now. It's a huge space. Kobe Socher, love getting your text, man. That guy, I couldn't be prouder, who had his best year ever. I won't share what the number is, but Kobe Socher had his best year ever financially in 2023, capped it off. He is over on Oahu, I think, on a property. I think I won't say where he's at because I could get super weird, but love your year, man. Proud of you for what you did. Excited to play a small part in that and look forward to seeing what you do in 2024. Favorite books on the insurance topic. On the whole life space, that book, Becoming Your Own Bank by Nielsen Nash, is one of the just best places to start. That book does a really, really good job. From there, you go down lots of different paths. I don't know how I'll be able to tell you the book. It's like the last name is like Morietti. If you put whole life, I think it's Moeretti. We'll try to grab that and maybe post that later. But Becoming Your Own Bank by Nielsen Nash, that would be the book I would have everyone read. It is the spot on how to think differently. The hardest part about whole life that's misunderstood is how does the cash value actually get created? And where does this infinite banking concept come from, right? The whole idea being like your money inside of your whole life policy is guaranteed. There's a floor, a certain amount of money it will make no matter what. But what's crazy is I have an old policy that it earns 4% no matter what. That's the minimum it can earn. And so there was a time where I could have borrowed the money at about 5%. Well, if it's earning 4, I'm borrowing at 5, I'm effectively only paying 1%. It's not, the dollars don't work exactly like they come out like that because your policy is internally earning the 4%. You don't get it till later, but it is earning the 4%. The money you're borrowing, that interest you are paying today. And there's just so many bad actors in the space and so many things that are stated incorrectly in whole life that it's very hard to get honest information. But in that scenario, you're effectively paying 1%. So if I can borrow the money and I've got it yielding that amount, anything I can do, if I can go put that money in a hard money loan, which I've done before, now I don't want to over leverage it. What I love to do is have some amount of money borrowed when I do an investment so I have no drag on my cash. Because when that cash is sitting in my checking account, I'm getting a 0% gain on it until recently where now sweep accounts will give you 4%. But prior to that, checking accounts, there was no sweep accounts. We're all getting 0%. I love to have about 100, let's say even if I have all my cash up, I really don't like debt. If I have 100,000 borrowed on a really big portfolio, as the cash comes in, assuming your gross cash flow is more than $100,000 per month, I aim, if I borrowed 100 and I had 100 coming in, I would use that cash flow as it came in to drive down my line of credit. So every dollar that hits my checking account, I'm now making whatever the interest rate I'm paying on that loan is. I love that game from a velocity of money perspective. I've got lines of credit on my free and clear rentals, and I play that same game. I always want to have, I've got reserves and I've got cash. That's a different subject, but operating capital, I love to have a little bit borrowed against. So as that operating capital comes in real time, whether that's monthly distributions, your paycheck or whatever, you're able to drive down that line of credit and get that amount today. Lines of credit that are 7 or 8%, 9%. It's a really good use of capital sitting in your checking account. You can't go get that rate like in a treasury bill. It's a huge, huge concept, that infinite banking concept. Becoming Your Own Bank discusses that and does a really, really good job. This is going to be the worst answer ever, Isaiah. I do not read any fiction books. I know I'm going to get blasted. That'll probably break the internet with that response, but I do not read. I read for a hyper-specific purpose. I read for education about a specific topic that I'm looking to get the ultimate edge in my life in. That might be the craziest answer you ever heard, but I'll watch Netflix, I'll go do something else, but for enjoyment, I do not read. I do not read for fictional purpose. There's no judgment there. Everything I read is all about getting better or getting better or developing new skills. All right, we're coming up to the tail end. Cole, I thought we were going to wrap early today, but there's just so much going on in Hawaii. Brian Margolis, have I ever bought a home from a wholesale company that's not your own and then wholesaled again? I have bought from a wholesaler. We've done some deals where we've locked something up and sold that contract for more money. We've done that. I've bought from a wholesaler and kept for my investment portfolio. I have done that rarely, right? Usually, both of those would be the exception. Everything we contract is direct, and usually we're taking those down or we're assigning it directly. So there's not markup or daisy chains on our deals, but probably any crazy scenario I've done it. So I have done a version of that. Luke, we will add to our list, Cole, the 135 and the GPS. Anywhere we could go to infinite banking outside of books. Oh, there is a great, I I do love this site. Buddy of mine, Kyle Fuller over at Factum Financial. Let me go there. Has one of the best courses I've seen. Let me try to get there. I'll show you. Hang on. Let me get. All right. Yeah. So I would go to Factum Financial, go to resources. He has created some infinite banking courses. So you got the foundations. If you don't even know what it is or why should you be thinking about it, you can check that out there. You can go, then you get strategy, you go family banking. The business section was really cool. The wealth building section, cool. He does just an amazing job. One of the best educators I've seen in the space. I would go to factumfinancial.com, go watch. Let's see how long this is. What are you talking? Hour and a half to understand everything about it and know why people are talking about it, how the wealthy are using it as a tool. I think it's a great tool out there. So with that, we are going to wrap. This is our last podcast in 2023. It's been a wild ride. Never thought I'd be doing it. Couldn't be more excited to be doing it in all that we have planned in 2024 and beyond. I will be back here in the same room with my phone on top of the toaster. This is the behind the scenes. That's my phone and a plant. And just a little plate on top of the toaster. This is Cole. If you could pull this off, you could pull off anything. Have an amazing rest of your 2023. And in 2024, may the least that you expect be the most that you get. That's the wrong way, Cole. I do it every single time. How about the most you expect be the least that you get? Just joking. Happy New Year. Go out. Let's crush it and be wealthy in 2024.